Hello and welcome. I'm so lucky we have Brad here today, who is our lead therapist, also does supervision for our team, and is really not just overqualified to give you this information, but he's one of our most requested individuals for the groups and the one-on-one. And so I asked if he would be kind enough to get to share some of the work that he does with the clients, and he actually put something together to show you, and it's kind of a secret. We shouldn't even really be sharing this. He's in the middle of publication publicizing. There you go. You can tell I'm quite the wordsmith. In the middle of publicizing a lot of this stuff. So I asked that he just strip down one core part that we can get out to you guys, so you can start working on that on the familial side. But again, this is fantastic content. Get your notebook ready, have a pen and pencil ready. He's going to go ahead and dive into it to show you what you can do to start some of the growth process as well. So without further ado, here's Brad.
Okay, great. Hey guys, appreciate you joining us today. So I'm going to start out with talking about one of the main core issues that pretty much everything is built on when we talk about understanding the addiction world and kind of how this all happened. So it's going to be very basic core concepts. So I'm going to put, basically we're going 4 different places here. And so the words I'm going to put up here, as you can see, are very basic. Number 1 is love. So the very core of what has happened in the addiction world is we have a problem here. Addiction is a distortion of our ability to love. In particular, our ability to give and receive it. So this is the core issue, the core concept. Now what happens, now how did this happen? Typically we're looking at folks that are in addiction maybe in their 20s and 30s, but we fail to recognize that a lot of this happened way before. And in terms of love, the foundation for love that I want to share with you today is our ability to bond. Now, bonding comes very early in life, from 0 generally to 5. And our bonding is our ability to join. So what we're doing, picture a baby that is just freshly born, and the baby is now bonding with his or her mom, and as time goes on, as these years in early development go on, what you're doing is you're setting a foundation for all future relationships. All future relationships start at this moment. And I like to look at this as 3 basic factors. I like to look at the 3 T's. They're basically 3 T's of bonding that you can just instantly take a look at and find out what happened with this individual. Did this individual get to be able to truly experience the ability to give and receive love through their bonding, or was that broken? So here's what we look at. We look at time, we look at touch, we look at talk. Pretty simple, right? But what we do is we look at the mom and the dad. What happened with those primary biological caregivers, and how were they able to create an atmosphere where the child was able to join with that parent and caregiver in order to understand and experience their ability to give and receive love freely without problems. Now, why is that important in addiction? Because in addiction, we're actually bonding with a non-relational source of love. We're bonding with a substance instead of a person. That's kind of strange. But this is all where it starts. So let's take this to the next step. So we have love, that's kind of the goal, right? We have the foundation for the goal. Now the process of this is called attachment. So now what is attachment? Attachment is actually my pattern of bonding. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. So what could possibly be a pattern of bonding? So I'm going to give you 3 flavors today. Our patterns of bonding. So one pattern, and by the way, this material was researched and studied and published by Aaron Beck, The Whole Theory of Attachment. And if you want to read more about that, it's very worth reading. So secure attachment is where there is a consistent response of care to the individual. So picture a baby. A baby cries, the mother hears the cry, goes to the room, responds, and then picks the baby up and comforts and gives the baby what it needs and kind of reassures and soothes the baby so they meet the needs. So there's an expression, there's a response, and then there's a meeting of needs. That's secure. We continue that throughout life if that was your experience. Many people wasn't. Many people actually have an anxious attachment. What is anxious? Anxious is based on fear. So anxious attachment is when the caregiver maybe wasn't there regularly. Maybe was there sometimes and then sometimes not. So how does that look in terms of attachment with family members and with spouses and significant others? A person with an anxious attachment pattern is always afraid. And what's going through their mind typically is, when are you going to leave me? I know you're going to leave, it's just a matter of when. And so then what I'll do is I'll try to make sure that you're the most comfortable spouse or significant other in the world. I'll bring you water and coffee every 5 minutes and give you massages, rub your back, and whatever you need just to make sure that you don't leave me. That's anxious or fearful attachment. And the last one is avoidant. So avoidant is very common in addiction. Avoidant usually happens when instead of a secure attachment, the caregiver was totally disengaged, shut down, maybe using, maybe absent, but for some reason they're totally unable to provide the kind of bonding that's needed for a foundation. And so now the avoidant says, in fact, let's go back here. Anxious says, when are you going to leave? When are you going to leave? Avoidant says, I don't even need you. I don't need you anymore. In fact, I've learned to be self-sufficient. I meet my own needs. Thank you very much. So I'll just take care of me. How's it work in addiction? Drugs my bonding agent, right? And so I no longer have a relational connection. Now I have a non-relational connection and a non-relational bonding to try to get my needs for love met. Interesting. Who would think that a drug would be a source of love? Obviously, it's a distorted source. So now what's the fourth concept here? The fourth concept is repair. And this is what I want to leave you with today, is we need to get back to secure. How do we do that? How do we move back to secure if we spent our whole life either in fear or avoidance? And by the way, if the anxious was fearful, the avoidant is typically angry. So how do I move back to here, back home? Well, I have to have a new experience. See, this was an experience, bonding was an experience of joining. I need a new experience with people that can actually hear me, which means that I need to find out who I am. I need to find out what I'm feeling and be able to express those feelings to someone, have someone hear that, and in a safe environment without judging or criticizing or demanding that I change who I am. I can have someone that can actually hear me and kind of hold. Again, picture the mom bonding. I can emotionally hold that my feelings, and then I feel that my needs can be met if I were to ask for them. And so if I were to say, hey, I'm feeling really lonely today, can you meet me for lunch for an hour to talk? That's moving back to secure. Why? Because I realize that I have a need, and I don't feel fearful or angry. I can actually ask for my need to be met, and I choose someone that has the availability to meet those needs. So this is the very core of what we deal with. This is underneath the problem of addiction. This is why we say the addiction is not just the addict's problem. The addict comes in an environment of a family, and everyone has a part in this picture. So I hope that's helpful, and thank you very much for joining.
So one quick question, if we can.
Sure.
So as the parent standpoint of saying, okay, I can see maybe possibly if there's either the fear or the anger in my loved one, and not just parents, but also significant others, my loved one is either saying, I don't need you, or when you're going to leave, what's one takeaway they can do to either help set a boundary or help at least offer solution to get back to that secure?
Okay, so part of the working this out is our experience with boundaries. And our boundaries is saying, this is what I'm feeling, and when you do or don't do this, and then ask for a change. Would you please no longer do this, or would you please start doing that? And then if you don't, then this is how I take care of myself. And so I have to be able to express boundaries. So let's say that my caregiver or my significant other is the one that is avoidant, and I'm trying to connect with that avoidant person. So I have to say, you know, when I'm sharing, I notice that you check out, you're checking your phone, you're doing other things instead of connecting with me. Would you please not do that? So we have to ask for our needs.
Perfect. So to sum up, it sounds like first is awareness, to be aware when this is going on, then you
Right.
make the request.
Right?
And if for some reason the request is not honored or acknowledged, self-soothe.
Exactly.
Perfect. Well,
Exactly.
thank you so much.
Okay, my pleasure.